Okay, welcome back to episode 2 on how we're going to be improving our brains. Last episode, we talked about ultralearning. We talked about how we're going to be reading this together and doing the exercises together so that we can improve our memory. And this is going to be the first step. The ultimate goal for the end or throughout this series would be to improve our memory. From there, it depends on where we want to go. Maybe we can do something around structuring thoughts and improving communication skills. It really depends on how we go, but I think from our initial conversation, improving our memory is going to be so incredibly important. So let's talk about the continuation of this book. The first chapter, we talked about how Scott Young is introducing a multitude of ultra learners. These people are individuals around the world who are considered ultra learners because they learn really, really quickly, and a lot of the time they specialize in one area, whether it's mathematics, linguistics, or anything else for that matter, and each of them have a different way of learning and retaining information. And so Scott Young is going to essentially be taking us through some of these areas of learning and see if we could replicate a few of them. So what we're going to do today is we're going to read chapter 2, why ultra learning matters. And the way that we're going to go about this is we're going to be reading this chapter. From there, I'm going to close the book and write out what I remembered without looking at the book, just from memory. From there, I'm going to close it and I'm going to reiterate it to you all because teaching also helps with memory. And from there, hopefully we can do this together, essentially. So I will read this book, I'm going to write that chapter, and then I'll be right back. Something you can use, by the way, to help with reading books is the Pomodoro technique. I'm sure you've heard it from other creators before or other places. You essentially read for 25 minutes, and the reason for that is because we tend to remember the beginning and the last of conversations or books that we read, and so we want to be able to retain as much information as possible. So 25 minutes is a good way to remember the majority of what we learn because it's a shorter amount of time spent learning. So we'll remember the beginning and the last, middle, meh, but with 25 minutes we should be okay with that. So be right back. Okay friends, so we just finished the second chapter of this book. So now, and I encourage you to do that also in everyday life if you're trying to learn something. I'm gonna write what I remembered, which is probably gonna be 10% of what I just read, and I'm already kind of forgetting what I read, but this is going to be a good exercise for us to really think through what was talked about, and from there I'll reiterate it to you. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I just finished writing it down. I will say today has not been the best. I feel like I wasn't as focused as I needed to be, but just to show you some idea, this was the first chapter that I read, and this was the second one. So not every day is going to be perfect, but I do think it's because I was sitting on this couch as opposed to properly sitting down at a desk, maybe using a pen to just go through all the pages and truly internalizing it. So feedback for next time. It's going to be a little bit easier to learn that way. So anyways, just to give you some background around chapter 2, the author, let me close this actually, 1 second. Okay, so this chapter talked about all the reasons why being an ultra learner can benefit your life. It talked about the technological advances happening in this world, where now technology is moving at such a fast pace that we need to be able to keep up with it. So learning different types of subjects and being a little bit more diversified in your skill sets are going to put you at such a big advantage compared to others who are just going with emotion and just have a college degree and going at it normally, just because you really can't afford to do that anymore in this day and age. Something else that the author points out is that you're going to need to make time to learn these new skill sets, because the more time you dedicate to it, obviously the better it's going to be, which can be frustrating for a lot of people because they are already working, they're already, have family commitments, and that takes time. So he's going to talk about in a later chapter the ways that we can essentially make time for it. And there's a few ways that some people have made time for it. Some people is going to be around sabbaticals or in between career transitions that they're doing this. Somebody like myself, and I'm sure most of you here, is probably going to be after work or before work to try and learn these new skill sets. But it's also not just about wanting the end result of learning a new skill. It's really about what drives you to want to learn something else. It can't just be that end result, which for me is definitely the end result. I want to be so smart. It has to be something that interests you. Hey, I really want to learn this because it's going to open up a whole new world of possibilities, and then who knows where it's going to get you in the long run. But it needs to be more than just, oh, I want to be rich and wealthy. It has to be more than that in order to be sustainable. There's also a few points being talked about around how some scientists believe that ultra learners are just born this way, because there has been a lot of cases where people from a very young age are just above average when it comes to learning, when it comes to adding on to new fields, mathematically speaking, a lot of the time. So there is that constant push and pull from different scientists who, one, believe that you're just born with it, it's genetic, and others who are saying that, hey, this can actually be learned. So the author believes that it's a mix of both, which from all the things that I have learned about or heard about, it's definitely a learned trait, especially because our brain is neoplastic, so plasticity in the brain. I hope I'm saying this correctly, but hopefully you understand what I mean. But so essentially that's what this chapter was about, showing you the reasons why being an ultra learner can benefit you in life. It's pretty easy to agree with all of that. The next chapter though is going to be around how to become an ultra learner, and I'll let you guys know a little bit more about that. But that's going to be it for today. Let me know how helpful this was, and if you are also would love a little book club, maybe if people want to read Ultra Learning with me, and we'll go from there. Please give your feedback below. Let me know what else you want to learn. Obviously we're going to keep at it with this one, and then let me know if you've done this yourself. Anyways, talk to you later. Bye.